give you leverage for digital delivery of commercials to the broadcasters? And am I kind of preempting your answer? I mean, how do you see it really panning out?
Good morning, everybody. From the, I just wanted to also just take a couple of points from the broadcaster's perspective. One, of course, that, when you look at digitization, right, it opens out, newer sort of avenues for revenue, especially at the regional level, right? Subscription revenues could be a very, very sort of a sizable opportunity over there for regional players to sort of see, right, with time to come. However, also, what broadcasters will also sort of like have to look at is, that when they're sort of like planning out the distribution, they will have to sort of now be a little more planned and a little more focused, right, when they sort of plan out their distribution. Because a lot of, like the entire digitization, like Ashokji mentioned, is going to be a huge cost, right? Now, part of this cost, I think, may be also passed on maybe to the broadcaster also in a certain way, right? So I think this, broadcasters will have to sort of be a little more focused on how they want to sort of distribute, so many sort of media avenues sort of being available to them, right?
You're saying reach their focus audience, right?
Reach the focus audience, absolutely. Right. And, in terms of technology over there in television, I think, one thing that broadcasters will also have to sort of take into account is obsolescence, right? Because when you are looking at, sort of catering to various different media, repurposing of that content is going to play a very, very important role over there, right? So technology to sort of support that entire process is going to be very key. And of course, then developing very, very cutting edge sort of content using all this technology, right? Very compelling content, that's going to be another challenge. Now, you mentioned the
MSOs are notoriously poor in communication. Now, it's amazing. I mean, we belong to the communication industry. But keep in mind that, a multi-system operator is a distributor and therefore really has no public voice. Now, unless he's owned by a broadcaster, in which case there would be a mention somewhere on a television channel. Now, you raised a very interesting point because, in fact, I wanted to bring it out especially to my two tech experts here on the panel that, it was way back in 2000, and this was not time when anyone was even looking at digitization in our country. And my company said to itself, hey, we cable operators, now we become multi-system operators, can we become fiber to curb operators? And in time to come, can we become fiber to home? Now, I'm talking of 11 years ago. And in those 11 years, almost every city which my company serves is covered by underground fiber. Of course, we had issues like right-of-way and so on. Those are obvious. And once that happened, and if you remember again historically, CAS ran aground in 2003, we had all these boxes, set-top boxes. They were lying in godowns. And I had come to the Honorable Joint Secretary, bitterly telling him that, all these boxes are lying in air-conditioned godowns, and what are we supposed to do with it? Because you've called off CAS. So he said, innovate. And we said, innovate, okay. So what we started doing, as the number of channels went up from 100 to 300 to 500 to 600, we innovated in what we call non-CAS areas by starting to provide digital services to analog customers. And in that, unfortunately, the tariff regulations even today don't allow us to charge a single rupee. So today it's an amazing situation where in my company, if I have 10 boxes on the ground, 8 are in non-addressable areas or areas that will be covered in the future. Only 2 are in CAS areas. But then what really happened is, another thing that happened in India, which I think we all missed out, I wouldn't say just MSOs, probably broadcasters, we all missed out the fact that emerging India did not lie in the metros. It lay in places like Nasik, it lay in places like Nagpur, it lay in places like Udaipur. And as we went to these cities, we suddenly found that the customer there was saying, hey, you have a set-top box in Bombay, why don't I have it? Why should I get 50 channels when those guys get 200 channels? And he said, oh my gosh, we'll have to put up digital headends everywhere. So much before these plans were announced by government, we started putting digital headends. Until one day, our CFO came and said, and how many headends will you put up? If you're going to be in 50 cities, Are you telling me you're going to spend on 50 head-ends? So then we had a little more brainwave, and we started the concept of digital feeds. Today what we really do is, if we install capacity in Mumbai, we serve Nasik, we serve Pune. From Bangalore, we serve Goa, and so on and so forth. Now, what have we really done? We've laid the foundation of digital network.
Digitizing with a hybrid feed of analog going. We started shutting off analog completely. So then, before that, there are also cases where customer, because of changing technology, he kept on watching analog, though he had a box at home, for whatever reasons. So we started shutting off analog. Now we have shut off over 350 nodes where only a digital signal goes. So it has been a revolution for us that there are so many customers whom we didn't know were enjoying our service. They started calling us, what happened to your service? Which customer are you? There is no, he didn't exist in my database for some reason. So all those things started coming out. So then we said, okay, this is the way to go forward to digitize, to get returns. So I think finally any business, when you're talking about 30,000 crore investment or 50,000 crore investment, finally any investor would look for the returns on that. And the returns, I think we have to tweak the business model to ensure that the returns come so that this is sustainable investment and return cycle. Otherwise, it's just feeding the boxes and waiting for valuation. That I don't think is a right game. I think we should be, but again, in the whole chain, when you talk about LCOs, there is a resistance from LCOs to some extent. Why? They think that their differentiation from others is low price, good relationship with the customers because they are in the neighborhood. But he doesn't see that this cannot go on for long. He doesn't pay service tax because under declaration. He doesn't pay to the MSO because under declaration. So he feels digitization is going to transform all this, and he's not very comfortable. I think, but I'm glad to say that we see the change happening nowadays in the last 1 year, 2 years, where LCOs are approaching us saying that they want to digitize. Because of threat of DTH, demand from the customer, the mindsets are changing. But I think for a faster digitization, I think we need to have a good education to the LCOs, both on the government side as well as from MSO side, from broadcaster side, because LCO in the whole chain is a local entrepreneur who started 10 to 20 years back. I think he needs some education to change his mind. I think that needs to be done.
No, thanks. Dinesh, if I can just juxtapose what Shankar said and Ashok said with what Jonjit mentioned earlier about the fact that there's value-added services coming in and the fact that the MSOs have been innovating already in the past, the boxes are in. Shankar mentioned that there'll be different tier boxes because let's face it, whether or not we accept it, 30% of the viewers are below the poverty line in India, and we've got to take due cognizance of that. So when you look at it from a broadcaster perspective, where do your revenues lie? Would you also tier your services to cater to different levels of services in the digital distribution chain? And let me put it differently to you. Would the revenues from these different tiers justify the potential capex implication at your end? So that by far, you can just probably...
Actually, from broadcaster point of view, we are just the content provider, and it's it's the viewers who will get the content, and if they get the content in good quality,
right.
So they are the and they will see suppose right now what we're seeing is that the way DTH is moving, every month they adding 1 million customer, so that indicates that viewers also like to see the quality on air. And quality, when it comes to quality, then broadcaster definitely will also come into that domain. They will also start thinking innovative. They try to create programs which will ensure that the high quality content and they can be appreciated by the viewers in terms of you can say in terms of good quality.